yeah, where it announces that that person was the first person to discover the generation ship. Here it is, yeah. Bring the storytelling, that side of it back in game, because it is a big story, right? Another generation ship has been found. This is going to be something that Elite exists like we do within a culture of 24-hour-a-day news coverage. So it's going to be something that's going to be put into the rotation. And so the idea of a Galnet article coming out saying, you know, oh, this commander discovered this, it's perfect. And so you can do it better than they are at the moment, I would argue, fairly easily. But on the other side of it, I don't mind that only one person gets to discover it, and that a lot of people, as they would in reality, consume it through a different source. Because in reality, most people, even the commanders of the Elite Galaxy, aren't going to fly out to that generation ship to get the logs and hear it for themselves and see it for themselves, yeah? They're going to put on someone's flight cam and watch it and hear their logs, and yeah. Because that's what humans are like.
The unfortunate thing is, though, then developers are heavily relying on others to tell their story rather than being responsible for telling story. It's just letting out basically their deadly gas and hoping that somebody picks it up and then tells others about how smelly the gas was. And that's literally how I can describe it. And yes, these analogies are fantastic with me these days, but
oh yeah,
it's the most extreme way to look at it, but then again, it's not far from the reality. And well, I take a rather big issue with the fact that developers are relying on the third-party tools. They are relying on others that do their job, and then basically just taking credit for others just doing what they were supposed to do as a storyteller, a game maker, a entertainer.
I would argue that it's simply a reflection on how, like, on Frontier developments and where they are as a company. They haven't got the resources. You know, if EDDB didn't exist and they have to develop EDDB within the game, all of a sudden that's resources that are taken off of something else. I can completely understand where you've got a community that's grown around you and has taken the load on certain things, not developing in that direction, certainly not as a priority, yeah? Also, I do think with the storytelling thing, part of that is because they want us to have impact on it.
Yeah, and when was the last time they allowed that impact to actually properly go through? Doesn't feel that it was that...
Emperor's Dawn... You don't think comes to mind?
No,
the last thing that
Emperor's Dawn... Emperor's Dawn is simply the most obvious thing that ever happened, because they misjudged the way we were gonna jump, and we killed months worth of content. Yeah, and I spoke to Michael Brooks quite openly about this, and he was just like, they're fine with slavery, they're fine with piracy, they're fine with working for a guy, talking about Patrius, that literally extorts people into slavery. Terrorism, though, that's where they draw their line.
Okay, that's weird. No. The funny thing is, we have violence, we have slavery, we have narcotics, we have, all this wonderful stuff, and you say shit, piss, fuck, cunt, dick, and other things, and all of a sudden you are basically the biggest fucking criminal in the world. While you do the rest of the stuff in the game just fine. You're an upstanding player.
Yep.
As soon as you say something bad, fuck you. No, literally, just off to guillotine, you piece of shit. Yeah. That and the same thing goes with the forums. Again, I have this sort of a right to speak my mind sort of attitude and all that stuff. I understand why as the forums they do it, but in the game, yeah, there's that one little thing that I actually, rather give credit to Star Citizen. They actually do use profanity, and that is nice to at least see. unlikely dangerous, who's such a fucking nanny state. It's disgusting. It's well, that's me talking. No,
See,
that, you know.
I think that the story has certainly been railroaded a bit more recently. I think that has to do with the fact that they want to burn the bubble. I just don't understand why they're taking so long about it. And if they were going to take so long about it, why... I'm struggling to understand why they've done it the way they've done it. Like, cool, the burning stations thing, that's really awesome. Burn 10 a week. Right?
Talk about attrition. Holy crap.
Yeah, burn 10 a week. Make it actually... Well, yeah, no, exactly. Make it feel like a fucking threat. Yeah, we could fix 10 stations a week as a player base. No fucking problem. But
how many stations have been fixed thus far? I think.
Right, and how much have you put into that effort, Yamiks?
Basically, maybe 100 tons. 100 tons of cargo, maybe.
Paroxsym, how much have you put in?
Into what?
Into rescuing those stations that are burning. How much work have you done on that?
When they first came out with this stuff,
Yeah. And how about everyone?
Maybe 5 or 6 hours, and then I've stopped ever since because I got bored.
And how about everyone in chat? How much have you done to save these stations? No one's like. Don't get me wrong. There are people who are working on it pretty much like as their main thing. Yeah. But the vast majority of us are wandering around as if the Thargoids don't exist.
I mean, this is true. I mean, you should see what I'm doing on stream right now.
Oh, I got 0, 0, nothing, 0, 0, fuck stations, 5 books, okay, I got 0, 1,000 tons, ooh, 10,000, oh, hey, that's some...
I normally don't call out anything while we're doing these creators roundtables, but, Bognogus, you're a freaking legend. I'm just gonna throw that out there real quick.
Yeah, in my chat, I've had none, 0, I want them burned, absolutely 0, haven't gotten to do that just yet, 0, Thargoids don't exist, loads, don't know, I might have hauled 1,000 tons of basic meds for profit once, chicken
That's
bits,
just
none.
For the profit, not for the station itself.
Yeah, Zim hasn't, Karumba, sweet fuck all.
Yeah.
Boris, sweet fuck all. Yeah,
I
right?
mean,
now,
things, isn't it?
as for the most part, this is because people don't actually feel under threat, right?
So that's one part, and the other part is the fact that we feel the futility. Because again, when it came down to the first AX weapon community goal, it was the same thing. A lot of people participated in it, and once they saw another one come on, and by the 4th one, basically no one went for it, and that was a surprise that we even... Well, it was unlocked, obviously, because, well, how devs could not unlock it, but yeah, it didn't reach... How far did it actually go for that last AX weapon or AX related?
Yeah.
It barely reached. I think if it reached half, it barely reached it in that.
Yeah. And
if at all.
To be honest with you, again, if this was a thing where you were losing 10 stations a week, and I'll tell you how you really make it interesting, right? Again, through lore, we know the Thargoids know a shit ton more about us than we know about them. And they're gonna know where different groups are based, right? So if I'm Frontier, stop burning these random stations. I'm gonna go, right, who are the 10 biggest player groups in the game? And we're gonna burn your station, and 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 your station. And you're gonna, like, literally... How much more interest in this would there be if the 10 biggest player groups in the game's home stations were all fucking burning, instead of 10 random ones?
I'd be
Well,
interested.
then again, again, those factions are choosing stations in specific places that, let's say, randomly basically just having stations spontaneously combusting as if they were holding in fart for too long.
No, you have
somebody
them
will
attacked.
just lit them at.
No, it's a strategic attack. And think about it. You want to the Thargoids.
I'm on the side of the
aim,
story here. Yeah,
the aim of the
make much sense.
Well,
now,
no,
whatever.
yeah. Here you go. Here's how the lore on that works. That's really fucking easy, right? The faction of the Thargoids that are attacking us at the moment are not the main body of the Thargoids. They're involved in a civil war. There are two factions. This faction is losing, and they're running away. Now, while they're running away, their plan is to run through our territory, setting as much of it as they can on fire to get us really pissed off, so that when the other lot turn up, who we basically can't tell apart, we're just going to attack them. And their reaction to that will be to wipe us out. Because the Thargoid's reaction to any kind of threat seems to be, you know, essentially what someone who's terrified of spiders does when they find a spider in the bathtub. You know, they burn the house down. That's pretty much what we're talking here. And so the idea is that they're trying to rile us up. If you're trying to rile us up, don't get me wrong, yes, you do as they have done and target specific targets within the Federation, Alliance and Empire, yeah? But alongside that, you identify the largest civilian groups and you rile them up as well. And again, if you suddenly go after 10 player faction bases instead of 10 random nobody cares stations, you're going to get more of an interest, you're going to get more of an impact from it. Yeah, imagine if, like seriously, imagine if next Thursday I log in and fucking Bresler's on fire. And you've got...
I'll go cook some wieners there, so...
Yeah, right, yeah. but you get my point, yeah? I log in, Bresler's on fire, Wicked Lala and Filtor log in, and the PA's home system is on fire. The fuel
I
rats...
would shit bricks if I logged in and Siemens Vision was on fire.
Right, you log in and fucking Fuelum is on fire.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, Vesper M4, where the hammers are based. And you know, these are just the groups based around Twitch. I'm not even talking about some of the other groups as well. There are so many of us player groups within the game, yeah? Do that.
Well... I'm being cynical as shit here, but you know, you're basically now hoping the developers would have enough inkling to actually go and you know, make a story.
I actually think that they've not done it because they're scared that people would complain too much.
Well,
possible considering.
Yeah. That always happens. I mean, I don't put a fucking squeaky noise in my videos and people complain.
Yeah, I'm gonna be so like I'll say here, like I'm fine with them hitting the sovereignty's home system, like and you know, any other player group leaders that are listening or anyone who can get in touch with their player group leaders, make your leaders make a public statement that they're happy with their home system to be hit, that you're happy with your systems to be hit.
But
at least then Frontier can know the ones that are okay with it, right?
But at that point, it's sort of spoiling the story.
If that's their worry, well, no, if that's their worry, at least we can alleviate that particular worry, right? We can actually be like, no, we're cool with it, like you know, and seriously, the sovereignty, bring it on, we'd fucking love it.
I would actually have a lot of fun with that. It would give me a reason to care about the Thargoid story for once.
Right? And like I say, it makes sense, particularly, you know, when the groups are quite vocal about their opposition to the Thargoids, that makes sense. Even more so, the ones that are talking nice about the Thargoids, my god, hit them hardest, right? Their aim is to make everyone hate them.
Now, I've seen this brought up in my chat a couple of times, and I've been wondering about this too. Wasn't it hinted at one point that we would be able to ally ourselves individually with the Goids, at least in some form?
Oh yeah, they did. The funny thing is, to explain you how this works, so developers did say that, you know, when the Thargoids are coming, player actions will determine, you know, what type of stance they will have against humanity or whatnot else. And, well, I did actually say that this thing, either yesterday or in the last roundtable. I don't remember, but in any case, developers have created this rather interesting situation that you know, the things that you do with Targoids, if you go closer to them, they basically become hostile and all that stuff. And the only other way aside from actually making them hostile, the only way is, of course, not touching them. That is staying neutral, which is just ignoring them, which it's a non-option, sort of. It's just there by default. And of course, if you give them cargo, specific sort of a cargo, then they might pick it up, and that's the way you technically befriend them. So, yeah, it's... no, that's the thing. The interesting side of this particular interaction with Targoids is the fact that it's a lot easier to be hostile with them, rather than be friends with them. And, I mean, I don't mind that sort of a storytelling where you just basically tilt that, you know, scale and whatnot else, but kind of promised proper fucking thing, and we expect a proper interaction rather than just a random cargo being, you know, dispatched.
Nah.
Or whatever. DJ?
So, I have a view on this. First of all, in my memory, they said aliens, not Thargoids, when they were talking about our actions would dictate.
Did they say alien?
I believe so. I don't know.
Somebody probably will find...
Yeah. If someone can confirm one way or the other, I really appreciate it.
I do remember Targoids. I did remember quite a bit of the Targoid thingamagic, so... I'm siding with the Targoid thing.
Yeah, I remember alien, but I'm not certain. Either which way, Thargoids are aliens, so it's a relatively moot point. My theory has always been that the Thargoids are baddies. They're always going to be baddies. And that later interactions with other species probably will be far heavier influenced by player actions than it was ever possible to do with the Thargoids. I suspect, as I said earlier, that essentially Thargoid psychology is that if attacked, you wipe out the entire thing that's attacking you.
Well, okay.
And if that's their psychology, then we already attacked them. We tried to commit genocide on them, and they're not happy.
But then that statement from developers wouldn't really make sense, that there's a potential for players or, you know, they be friends with them. What they did mention, and that wasn't implied. Unless they are really pulling the fucking Sean Murray. Yeah, I highly doubt it's the case. Unless they're Sean Murraying this thing. Unless they're doing that.
I'd hope not. Because really I was hoping for more interaction with the Thargoids rather than just drop cargo or shoot. You know, and that's being like the only two things that you
don't even need to shoot. You need to just bump them, and boom, you have enemies against them already. That's how easy it is. That's why I'm saying, you know, they are tilting that scale towards the, you know, aggressive behavior.
They're clearly trying to make the Thargoids
which is fine.
Guys.
I've said, which is fine. Yeah. It's lazy, no doubt. It's lazy, but it's fine. It's one way if you really want to, you know, go for a specific thing and still present a potential choice.
It depends on, and it also depends on what their aim for the Thargoids is, right?
Sure.
If their aim is a wipe, basically, that they want to create a clean slate and wipe the bubble out, they can't have us making friends with them, can they?
Well, I don't know. Maybe the technology that we're incorporating from Guardians is just suddenly, I don't know, fossilized jizz of Guardians, and you know they just start sprouting out of our gun ports or something. I don't know. There's a potential.
No,
just
the Guardians aren't dead.
Crack.
The Guardians aren't dead. The Guardians
aren't they? Technically,
no.
I mean, as far as we know,
No.
they're extinct, but
No.
I mean, I suspect that there's
No.
still exiles out there somewhere.
Well, no, that's the thing. They exiled a large portion of their society. The ones that liked technology.
Okay, well, fine.
And
They
we have
come back
no
and collect their
record.
jizz. Fuck it.
We have
Let's
no
go with that.
record whatsoever. No record whatsoever as to what happened to the exiles. We have no clue.
Probably
So,
they are
DJTruthsayer,
yeah.
you've done a super interesting thing.
Yeah, well, anyways, if you're changing the topics, then yeah, in the chats, again, you feel free to post the link, the thingamajig that I did, but I took a little poll, at least on my fans, and let's be honest, my fandom is not the same as DJs or Paroxsyms or what else, so this might be, scaled on one specific side, who knows, but in any case, there's a poll, there's a link for a poll, I'm probably gonna post it again, and essentially it reads, or rather collects information as to how much lore do each of you actually have read, basically, and there's a rather predictable answers and all that stuff. So, of course, there's the option of there's a story, which is supposed to be sort of a mocking way of saying that you don't even know that there is a story in the game, that you haven't even touched it. Then of course there's the second place currently is, well, it's changing a little bit, but in any case there's the wiki materials, which probably most of us have done, which is the second place right now, plus maybe some beacons. Again, there's just tourist beacons or some other random little beacon that gives a story or something like that. So most of us actually have gone for wiki materials rather than in-game materials only, or books, just the books, or there's rather interesting, small minority that went for books or everything about it, and DJ is definitely that, I presume, goes for everything or has gone for everything.
I voted. I have read books, wiki beacons, and all other materials.
So essentially I created this little poll just to see, I pretty much knew what the results may be, but it still kind of baffles to see those two first choices. There's a story and just wiki materials plus maybe some in-game beacons.
May I ask a
DJ,
question?
Why do you think answers are as they are there?
Well,
why do
first
most
of all,
people say that wiki, or just that they haven't even touched the story?
So first of all, I'd like to seek out a piece of information. For those that have answered there's a story, how many actually care about the story? And how many, even if the story was basically put in front of their face in, I don't know, really well executed cutscenes and news stories and a rolling news channel and all that sort of shit, you'd still ignore it. Like, and that's not disparaging, is it just something that doesn't matter to you with Elite? Or is it something where it's too difficult to search out, it's too awkward to find out about? I think the fact that most people go through external sources backs up what I said earlier, about how, in reality, that's how we work, yeah? Most of us do. In reality, most commanders aren't going to fly to these places. They're not going to do that. They're going to look it up on Galnet, or whatever the internet is called, and they're going to find it on that, right? They're going to spoogle it, essentially. That makes perfect sense to me. It doesn't surprise me that so few people have read the books. By any stretch of the imagination, I always suspect that that's going to be a minority. You're not going to change that. It's writing books around a computer game.
Thing, yeah.
Again,
you're playing a game.
That seems...
Why do you want to read a book on top of it unless you are really into it?
I would actually argue the fact that combined the two answers that involve having read the books is 10% is actually pretty impressive. Right? That 1 in 10 people that have answered
there aren't
this.
that many people, answering the poll.
We've got 152
That's a decent chunk to get at least a little feel.
That's enough to get like a basic idea at the very least.
Yeah. I would argue that that's probably skewed by my chat, where I go on about the books quite a lot, and quite a lot of people end up finding out about them and reading them because of that. A lot of people aren't even aware the books exist.
What?
Well, that's a part of the thing that you kind of need to make sure people know of. If you're making multimedia project, but well, in game alone,
go. Yeah.
It's hard to get that knowledge in general. It's just you rely on everyone else's knowledge. You're relying on others to tell, others basically what it is all about, and that's the downfall in my eyes about the game, that the developers are too reliant on the third party, be that a tool or a person.
Yeah, whenever I do a lore night, I will get someone come in who has played the game for a long period of time, that has a huge amount of hours within the game. And they'll come in and sit and listen to us going through the backstory of Elite, or going in depth into one of the factions or something like that. And invariably I'll get, I had no idea any of this existed. Like, I had no idea about any of this. What? And
isn't that just telling how bad the storytelling is?
Well, no, again, I said earlier, I don't have an answer as to how you do it, though. And you know, I'll throw this to you two as a question. How would you solve it?
In a game like Elite?
Hang on, with a caveat of within the realistic budgetary constraints of Frontier developments. How would you do it?
There is, okay.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna be very cynical, so Paroxsym, be the lighter side of this answer, so go.
Alright. Okay,
hang on, I'm just gonna butt in. We have a fourth joined us.
Yeah, I've
Turgeon!
I've got 10-15 minutes. Thought I'd just pop in 10-15 minutes.
Okay, fine.
Right.
Okay, well, my answer quickly to just give Turgeon a little bit more time. So my answer would be basically, you can hire a person that works for PR, and this PR person also works to promote different things about the game, be that on social media, or perhaps even pull aside one coder, one designer, and one let's say artist, or a pencil monkey as I like to call them, and just whip them, and then force them to actually integrate that sort of a story and mention of a book or something like that, since Elite really loves those microtransactions. Also integrate that sort of a thing in the game as well. That's very simple to do, and would expose them books quite tremendously, don't you think? So there's different ways with very low budget you can do things on your own.
Yeah, there are certainly ways that you can do things, but like one of the ones I think Frontier should do is put audiobook versions of the books onto the Frontier store, and let you listen to them in your cockpit while you're flying around.
Well, that's
integrating them in game would be a fantastic idea.
It would.
I would make more use of that.
It's
the Galnet audio feature.
It's a little breaking the fourth wall, I suppose. But it depends how much they actually want the fourth wall to exist. Do they want one or not? I don't know.
Turgeon, the fucking buy now microtransactions button is not breaking the fucking fourth wall already. Come on.
All right. Fair enough.
Enough.
I've thought of that. Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's already that. Seriously.
True.
Yeah, and to be honest, that would be a great way to
It would.
And to plug a little bit, not for myself, but for someone else. You can actually do that with one of the books and HCS voice packs. I can't remember which of the books it is, you'll have to forgive me. But one of the books you can actually listen to in-game through HCS voice packs.
I've been listening to the chat a bit on and off, and yeah, I can appreciate, and DJ's totally with me on this one. It's the frustration that there's so much depth and lore in this game, and it's not there. They should be using it somehow, shouldn't they? You know, for people in the game. Have it. Look at all this stuff, and they just don't. And you think, why are you not doing it?
But again,
putting an article on Galnet saying here's something interesting that's happening in the galaxy, it's a waste of time, because people aren't going to go and read Galnet. They're more likely to go and look at DDDB and work out a trade route if they're looking off the game for something. They're not going to go and read Galnet for a story about story, because they think it's a story. So they're just not going to do it.
And part of that is simply making Galnet more relevant. I think if Galnet was actually relevant very quickly, we would all be checking Galnet every day.
As you know only too well what Galnet should be in the game lore. Yeah, that's what it should be in the game.
Yeah.
And it isn't.
And again, part of it comes down to like, you know, because the follow-up question, of course, is how would you do it if the budgetary constraints don't exist? And my answer to that is I do a whole host of things. I start with literally a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week rolling news network, and I hire a team of writers to back that up. And so
if money's no option, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and in that, you one of those people at least is tied in full time to working with the community to bring community stories to that. And the truth is, Elite Dangerous could support that. There's no, like right now, the amount of stuff that player groups get up to, you could fill a rolling news network, let alone the over-level stuff.
You could. I mean, there's any number of actual genuine role players out there that do, using that dreadful phrase that we start off with there, the personal narrative, they follow their own story, their own personal narrative within it. They create it. They actually get out there and do it. And it's all within the framework of the thing. You could put all of those stories in on a daily basis. People would flock to it.
Absolutely. I would also hire certain people from within the community, those that were susceptible to the idea, that liked the idea and could do it. You know, realistically, you've got to work with people's expectations salary-wise and all that sort of thing. But I would hire a small number of people to be in-game content creators. And I would have them work with they work at Frontier, they work with the developers and that sort of thing. So if a CG needs to go in to supplement what they're doing, then they can do that easily. All that sort of thing. And they build mini narratives, not ones attached to the main story, but local stories. Yeah, they might go to a system for a month and they'll tell a tale in that system. Yeah, stuff like that would just add so much depth to the game. Again, not talking limitless budget, I would completely reopen Galnet submissions and allow people to put stuff in. I would also have a limited
it's
version.
A mess. Again, fans and
you would have
stories.
you would have to, well, no, you need to have someone, at least one person working full-time on submissions, and realistically another person
there needs to
working
be
full-time.
two at least.
Yeah, at least another person working full-time on rewriting what they submit, right? But these are all ideas that are no budget, not actually realistic. All of these things would be
end of the bell curve stuff. But the point is, they're an idea. They're something that you could do if you had the money. So you get the idea and you rein back on it, back into your constraints. But it's good to have the idea out there at that end.
Oh yes, absolutely. I agree entirely. And I agree with you that the frustration, particularly from my end, is that to see the answer, there's a story, and I get why people say it, but it hurts because, yes, my God, there's a story. There's actually an incredibly interesting story about a giant galactic level conspiracy that's been controlling humanity for nearly 1,000 years. It's brilliant. It's Game of Thrones type stuff, you know?
But it has the flip side of being too secretive, and this thing. We've probably, right. I mean, you've probably been in a.
I talked with DJ about the very same issue. The first time we did something with the story, I did mention about the fact that for a conspiracy to exist, there needs to be at least something in on the surface for that conspiracy to even exist or be Well, a conspiracy.
But that's
right?
it. That's something to tell you that something's there in the first place. But I mean, I'm sure, DJ, you've probably been in role-play, tabletop role-playing games where the dungeon master is a complete tool who has this secret agenda of things that he's worked out, and he wants you to experience it, but he's not actually telling you what it is. So you, as the players, go, "Oh, well, that's interesting," and you go off in a completely different direction because you just want to go and kill something. And he's going, "No, I did this. You've got to come and look at." And too late, mate. You had the chance. You're too secretive. I've gone. You know? And that's what Frontier are doing with this secretive story. Everybody's gone. They want to go off and kill things. They've lost it.
Yeah. Oh, in the game of Elite Encounters we're playing at the moment, that literally happened a couple of weeks ago. There was a stash of weapons hidden in a room, and we explosively decompressed it accidentally because basically we didn't read the instructions properly. But
it was too secret.
Yeah. But the truth is that
speaking of too secretive.
And I agree, there needs to be more of that surface level stuff for the conspiracy stuff to really work for most players. And again, like, I don't think that Elite really is a game that when you start the game, you could give someone a cutscene that explains the state of play. For one thing, almost the moment that you wrote it, it would be out of date. It becomes very difficult. I do wonder if there's a space in Elite Dangerous for like a documentary that you can access. Like, maybe a 20-minute long video on the history of the galaxy, and maybe some like short 5-minute long ones to supplement on, this is what goes on in the Empire, this is what goes on in the Federation, this is what goes on in the Alliance. Short ones maybe to supplement on who the power play leaders are, things like that.
Well, but speaking of things that are too secretive, though, I was wondering if you guys think that the whole Roundtable mystery is too secretive / infuriating.
You know what's going to be the funniest thing about it?
One secret buried among a lot of other secrets, and people just look at it and eventually say, "Oh, for God's sake!" And they just go off and do something that's not a secret.
There needs to be dynamics between the importance and all that stuff. But speaking of actually the Raxlins and so forth, honestly, as a complete non-book reading scrub pub on lore side and all that. For me, again, I just hear Raxlin and I think, people are hyped about it, and I see people hyped about it, and sometimes I just hear different interesting things about it, and I think to myself, it's probably gonna be just like Targor. It's the first reveal, everyone is hyped, and then it's months upon months of nothing, and then something comes out and it's shit, and that's how it's gonna be. More shit and more shit, and it's gonna be a disappointment, and the game dies, and no, I don't want that, but there you go.
I'm almost certain I know where it is.
Doesn't matter. Who cares?
My problem is that if my theory is correct, then you have to be triple elite to get there. And I'm
still
not
a single fuck given.
Well, no, I'm not elite in combat. This is where my problem comes in. I'm not elite in combat, and if I'm right, and you have to be triple elite to get there, I have to grind through combat to get elite in combat.
You're gonna love it so much, DJ. You're gonna love it so much. You're gonna just want to hang yourself with one of your cords from PC or something. I've
been working on it for over a year, and I refuse to grind. So if I don't feel like combat, I won't do combat.
How about you do healings for feelies? You don't need to grind it at all. Just healies for feelies for days.
Speaking of which, like, it's taken me a year to get 55% of the way through Deadly on my way to Elite, and this is the last one. A year.
Yeah.
And that's with all the combat that I do. Like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Well, what I'll say about Raxler is that, if I'm correct, it's in the bubble. Which is something that Drew and I have discussed quite openly. For the myth to make sense, it has to be within roughly 1,000 light years of Earth. Because it was found very early on in the days of space exploration. The myths go a long way back, yeah? So it only makes sense if it's there. Yeah, it's in the bubble. Everyone's looking
So,
for the wrong thing.
Explorer community, you know what to do now. Just search every
well, no.
single star system with every single star for
Well,
not
no,
star
they're all-
board, but
that's-
planet
that's
and all
part-
that shit.
That's part of the problem. They're all looking for the wrong thing. And as far as I am aware, / as far as I can work out, you have to be triple elite to get there.
Okay.
So there you go, a little bit of puzzle.
Again,
Oh.
you say, oh, Roxley's this and that and what it does and I think to myself, why should I care? I still don't give a single solidified fart about it, because, well, guess what? I have no fucking idea what Raxley even is for me to even give a fuck about it. So
Nobody really knows.
So why the fuck should we be even excited about it? Why do people talk about it? Because
it was central to the story.